Well, first and foremost, I also want to thank the committee and all of you for being here today and hear what we have to say, right? I do want to begin real quick by a quote. It says, "Be the change you want to see in the world." So this is a quote that has stuck with me for quite some time now, even ever since I even moved to the United States. And something that I'll always have has been in my mind, if you will. As it was mentioned before, I do work here for UNL, and I have had the opportunity to have different titles from, being a graduate assistant, being an instructor. And I've been a house director for one of the fraternity houses on campus too. So oftentimes that's what people see, right? And at the same time, sometimes we neglect to see other identities, and specifically when it comes to hidden identities. So, as I talk with folks, and I am an advisor for a student organization as well, and I do disclose that I am undocumented. People always ask, "Wait, but you have a master's degree, but you are my instructor," or how does that happen, right? And I feel like oftentimes, the narrative that we have put together, or when we think about someone who is undocumented, is a specific country, or sometimes it's a specific person, how they look like, and there's this whole narrative that is missing, right? And there's this whole spectrum of what does it mean for someone who is undocumented, and can someone who is undocumented be a PhD student, right? So as I work here with our undocumented students here at UNL, with other staff members who are also undocumented, or graduate students who are undocumented, it really started sparking this need for me to speak up, right, or say something. So just to kind of give you a little more context as far as some facts, because I think facts are important. When I say undocumented, I'm almost more like documented, which stands for Action for Childhood Arrivals. For those of you who don't know what DACA is, it was a piece of a presidential mandate that President Obama passed in 2012, which allows certain individuals relief from deportation. So that is actually what I hold right now. The one thing with DACA is that after President Obama leaves office, then that could be dissolved. But a couple other facts, about 1.5 million documented youth live in the United States. About 65,000 graduate from U.S. high schools each year. Approximately 5 to 10% enroll in public colleges and universities across the country. And as of June of 2013 in the state of Nebraska, there were 5,196 DACA requests, which out of those requests, 4,570 have been approved. So that means that we potentially could have around 4,570 students who are, documented or undocumented, who are, in our classrooms, who perhaps could be your instructor, or could be, your house director if you're in a Greek letter organization. We're around, right? So changing the narrative for me was important to bring to light that, who, a person who is undocumented, they could be, anyone really. There's not a certain person or physique, if you will. So for me, one of those things that was important was well, how can I be in my role as a student at the time, as a graduate student? How can I make an impact, right? So oftentimes I hear about all these great things that people are doing. It's I don't think I have what it takes to make an impact, right? So one of the things that came out of that was a program that I currently host that is called Dream Zone. Which I'll get to it here in a little bit as well. But I do want to talk a little bit about the timeline, or some specific things that happened throughout my experience here at UNL that kind of got to where it is where I'm at right now, or where Dream Zone is. Through my assistantship, when I first arrived here, I got an opportunity to work in the Multicultural Center doing events. And one of the events that I want to bring to light was a video that was called The Dream Is Now, which pretty much highlighted 4 individuals who were also undocumented, and it kind of brings to light this whole new momentum, right? Of individuals what, we're here, and what are you going to do with us? So I remember after the screening that we had, a lot of people kind of joined, oh, this is great, what can we do? And I was well, we can get involved, but there was just not much to it. And for me, I wanted to do something that was more active, or more action-oriented. And I started thinking, what can I do? And I always, I was a grad student, like I mentioned, doing between coursework, my assistantship, and like I mentioned, I was teaching at Southeast Community College as well. I mean, that could go on and on. So what can I do with some of the things that I'm doing in class? So one of my classes is, remember, pretty vividly, it was college students in America. We had to do a project on a specific population. So I started like, okay, so how can I start shifting things that I'm doing into like what I'm passionate about? So I wanted to research more about DACA recipients specifically and what their experiences have been. So that kind of sparked, like, I need to start doing some more research, like what are some of those experiences, and started networking. I had an ability to go to like a conference and kind of start asking folks, is anybody having this conversation? Like, is anybody doing research on this topic? And I was able to identify a couple of graduate students from Arizona State University who were also like interested in doing some research. So we said, like, we need to work together. Like, what is it that you all have been working on? Like, I had like some like literature review that I've been working on and starting putting some numbers together. So we did lots of conference calls, like Google Hangouts, you know, Facebook comments, if you will, and we started like developing like collaborations to what now created what is Dream Zone. So Dream Zone is basically an allyship program where we talked about pretty much the state of affairs that we have, like both at the national level, kind of what's going on at the federal level, or climates, I should say. So federal, states, then also talking about like institutional climate, and then they talk about the home climate, as well as talking about language and being able to, again, shifting that narrative and providing folks with specific facts and talking about the spectrum of, again, of someone who is undocumented, like where they're at, in addition to creating what are some best practices? What are some, what can I do as an individual? How can I get involved? Like, and to be able to be an ally, if you will, for folks who do identify as being undocumented. So, you know, I did, so I do, you know, and for me, like, that's something, when I think about activism is, what is it that I could do right now? What is something that is tangible, right? What is it that, things that I'm already doing, like, can I incorporate into my work? Can I incorporate into like what I'm researching? So that's, Dream Zone has come out, and I do facilitate these trainings. We've had 2 already in September and October. There's a couple ones coming up in February and March, so I'm just gonna, you know, put that plug in there. So if you could definitely go to our website, it's gonna be on there, Oasis, unl.edu/Oasis, and you can see and be able to register for this program. And if you'd like to be interested more, learn about how to be an advocate, how to be an ally for folks who are undocumented. But I do, you know, I do want to highlight one of the things that we're asked is like, what is it the one thing that you would do? Like, what is the skill? For me, I would say like incorporating things that you're already doing right now. You know, if you have a class project, start working on like making like more research or like looking into that specific project. What are some other folks that are on campus perhaps doing to join the cause, like being informed, right? I think you have to start with that and then just, you know, incorporate into what is it that you're doing right now. You don't have to necessarily go out and create like a whole new, like, I don't have like a nonprofit, or I don't have like a platform. Oftentimes it's what is it that you can do within your circle? Oftentimes it is, you know, like what is it you can do within like the folks who are around you? You know, you might be able to create that systemic change, but that's something that you're gonna be able to get eventually. Like sometimes it's working with those who are around you and try to make a better, or bring issues to light to those who are around you. You know, with Dream Zone, I've had the opportunity to present at like national conferences, like of out of state, and it's something that, you know, as I mentioned, like going back, it started with a class project. It started with, you know, I just want to learn a little bit more. You know, started like networking, meeting some other folks who were like interested in this area. Like we're already doing research, so like why not work together, right? And as I continue with like Dream Zone, you know, one of the things that right now I'm pretty privileged to be in a position where even starting a new student organization, which is actually called Define American, and you know, to start bringing like other things, to start bringing students into the picture, and being able to speak up, right? So sometimes it's like the small project, you just kind of start working towards you know, whatever it is that, or issue that you want to bring to light. Like I mentioned, oftentimes the students will always have excuses like, oh, but I'm too busy, like I am not a senator, like, or I am not a deputy. You don't have to be any of those things. I think if you're like passionate about something, it takes time, yes, but at the same time, being strategic is going to be important, like I mentioned. Put that into like things that you're already doing. For me, like I work for Oasis, so I was like, well, what can we do this? Like, how can I incorporate into my work? So technically, I do get paid now to do Dream Zone trainings, right? So like it's part of my job. It's what I do. So identifying those things that you're already doing to incorporate what can you do? I think is like the best advice that I could say as far as being an activist, and don't undermine like what you're doing as like I'm only making changes like to a few people, but like if few people, it's eventually going to start growing, and you never know. Like for me, I never thought that my class project eventually would be taking me to national conferences to present on this topic, or even being here today and talk about this. And again, it all started with the class project. So with that, I definitely want to thank folks for that. And just going back to my quote, like as you're continuing in your journey, as you continue to see like what is it that I can do as a person, as an individual, hopefully this is something that can keep stuck with you. And this is something that always helped me, like when I think about like, can I do more, can I do better? Always thinking about this, so being the change who you want to see in the world, and it starts with one person. Thank you very much for your time.